So hello and welcome to today's Info2Go webinar. My name is Annie Gaines and I am the Continuing Education Consultant here at the Idaho Commission for Libraries. On behalf of the ICFL and our funding partner, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, it's my pleasure to introduce these librarians from the University of Idaho Library who will be telling us about their CollectionBuilder project. So Devin Becker is the head of the Data and Digital Services Department. Evan Williamson is the Digital Infrastructure Librarian, and Olivia is the Digital Initiatives Librarian. So take it away, Evan.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. So I'm sharing my screen there, and then I also wanted to put a link to the slides into the chat here for you. So there's a link in the chat to the slides, so you can download those and follow along. There's lots of links in there for reference later. But welcome to Growing Collection Builder, Developing an Agile Approach to Digital Collections webinar. I'm Evan, as Annie introduced, to the Digital Infrastructure Librarian at University of Idaho Library. And happy to be here remotely. We previously had the pleasure of working with Annie, so I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And thank you for inviting us to Info2Go. I'm going to start out today just by giving you a broad introduction to CollectionBuilder, the concepts behind the design and the technologies that power it. Olivia is going to follow up with some more hands-on walkthrough about showing you how CollectionBuilder works for us at U of I. And then Devin's going to wrap it up with a bigger picture of where we're going and the opportunities for collaboration. And feel free to put all your questions in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll also probably try to take some questions at the end. So I guess let's get going. CollectionBuilder is an open source tool for creating digital collection and exhibit websites that are driven by metadata and powered by modern static web technology. So the project is really designed for non-professional developers, and when I say that, I mean really librarians and other folks in libraries like us, and it aims to lower the barriers to development, hosting, and access. This approach can empower users, like us in the library, to take full ownership over our projects while serving it up on minimal infrastructure. And I just do want to point out this link to the homepage of CollectionBuilder. You're going to find a lot of documentation, step-by-step type documentation for getting started, video tutorial workshop that walks you through demo project, and lots of information. So the team is really focused on trying to create documentation and doable workflows because we believe that learning CollectionBuilder basics is going to be a really great way to build all kinds of web skills that will be useful for different types of projects as well. So the basic idea is this. Users are going to create a spreadsheet of your collection metadata, like on Google Sheets. You're going to have a corresponding digital objects, either in a folder of digital files or in a repository. And you're going to add that information into the CollectionBuilder template, which is just a folder of code that's available on GitHub. And when you put those things together, you're going to get a complete static website driven by your metadata for browsing and contextualizing your collection that really invites the users in to explore. So what you're seeing here is the default homepage, and you can already start to see how that metadata is being processed and digested up to generate summaries, which will give an immediate overview of the collection content, and then also tons of little links that will jump you into that collection and get you interested in exploring. So we see, types of objects, locations featured, the types of subjects, the time, and some example objects right here. And it's all just automatically generated from your metadata. So the template includes a number of configurable visualizations that are generated directly from your metadata, as I said. That's going to be a repeating theme here, that provide interactive pathways to browse and explore the collection. So metadata becomes visualizations. Each of the visualizations is created by a template made of modular components, basically little recipes that can be adapted to different needs. And this approach is really trying to reward quality metadata, and then it really makes the template flexible to a variety of project types. And I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough of the basic pages. We have a browse page, which has a representation of every object in the collection, and it can be filtered and sorted by their various attributes on display. We have some subject clouds that are automatically generated from relevant metadata fields, and that can provide an overview of the topics that are represented in the collection, and then also links back into this browse page to filter and discover things. There's a map page that can plot anything that has a lat long and present it clustered on a browsable map with little pins that represent the objects, and a timeline page that has everything presented arranged by date. And finally, there's also a data page that provides an interactive table with search, sort, and the ability to export that data. And it also makes available a whole variety of automatically generated metadata derivatives to make the exploration and reuse of your data easier. So all of those different pages are going to help the users discover the individual items in your collection and browse those items. So your metadata is also going to be driving the creation of a complete item page for every object described in your collection. So metadata to item pages. The page is going to feature the full metadata, the object downloads, a full screen gallery view, as well as links back into those visualizations to build a network of connections and context for the item. It's important to note that under the skin, the template is also exposing that metadata via a variety of machine-readable and reusable formats that improve the SEO and open new means of analysis. So we're really trying to enable that concept of collections as data. So once again, metadata into markup. So you can see some rich item page markup here in the middle of the screen and some JSON derivatives displayed here. While this data is not going to display visually on the screen on the website, it is ready for the harvesters and the crawlers, which is going to improve discovery for your users. And finally, your metadata can even be pulled into your about pages. So once your objects are all added, Collection Builder provides you some tools to tell stories featuring those items, highlighting the beauty and unique value of each collection. And we really want you to love writing about pages and leave behind that kind of database only representation seen in most repository platforms. So we see this as foregrounding the idea of collections as a collection, putting the focus on the context, the research, and your storytelling. And so I hope that gives you a pretty good idea of what Collection Builder looks like and what it can do. And now I'm going to just give you a bit of an overview of how it works. I'm going to check the chat. Oh, okay, great. So we started developing Collection Builder out of our frustration with using Content DM and Omeka for teaching and creating exhibits at U of I, especially during a workshop kind of context. Using those platforms really required maintaining heavy infrastructure and basically just teaching our collaborators and students just to push buttons and fill out forms on the admin interface, which has been called buttonology. So we want to try a very different approach that kind of puts that focus back on creating metadata and digitized objects while fostering some fundamental web and data literacies. So unlike a traditional content management system or digital asset management platform that you might be familiar with, Collection Builder is not a visual GUI tool with an admin interface. Using it actually is going to look a little bit like this. So scanning objects, creating metadata in a spreadsheet, and then editing the project in a text editor. This little terminal window over here is where the magic of building the website actually happens. There's no database, there's no admin interface, there's no special software on your server. However, I assure you that this is actually very doable for librarians, digital humanities folks, and students if you're willing to approach it with as a learning experience. And you'll be rewarded by having a very flexible and sustainable template for creating all kinds of projects in a variety of use cases. So here's a bit more detail. First, you have your basic ingredients, which I've basically introduced to you already. You're going to add your metadata as a CSV into the project. You're going to have your digital objects, which might be hosted directly in that repository or might be somewhere else like a Content DM. And you're going to have the template code, which is provided by Collection Builder. And that consists of just modular chunks of HTML, liquid template files, and helpful development libraries such as Bootstrap 4. So when you're getting started, you can basically just completely ignore the template and just edit the basic configuration files, which are a couple CSVs and a type of file called a YAML file, which is pretty straightforward. And you just edit those to get the site set up and customized. Second, we're going to be using a tool called Jekyll, which is a really popular static website generator. And it could be installed on your local computer, or you can use it through automatic services such as on GitHub Pages. So Jekyll is a tool that's going to knit together all of these components and transform that folder of source code into a complete website driven by your metadata. And it's going to output HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and various other files that make up the final website. Again, to get started, you don't need to know anything about Jekyll and Liquid and the tools that, other tools that power Collection Builder. You'd really just focus on your metadata, you follow along with the example, and the template does the rest. And finally, you're going to have to put that output from Jekyll onto a web server. You can either use a cloud host, a basic web server, or automatic free hosting, such as the one that's built in with GitHub Pages or a similar service. So your server doesn't need any database or special software. A static site is just ready to go for your users. So a typical content management system or digital asset management system are usually referred to as dynamic websites. And that means that they're going to require a database, a server-side programming language, and other software to function. So in other words, they're going to have to spend a lot of time setting up that infrastructure, and there's a lot of requirements just to get started. And there's also going to be a lot of ongoing maintenance and security updates. In contrast, when Jekyll builds out your site, the output is purely static HTML. So where you're going to lose some of that apparent ease of the CMS GUI admin interface, this modern static web approach really has some appealing benefits. First off, it's fast. Static web pages can be really fast, which provides better access for all your users. Second, from an infrastructure perspective, it's just simpler. The minimum requirements simplify your costs, your IT, and maintenance while lowering the security risks of the system overall. Third, and this is a related point, it's just very sustainable and preservation ready. If you look around, so many library and digital humanities projects are broken after a few years just because of the underlying infrastructure, missing updates on your WordPress, missing updates on your Omeka. While a static site is going to look dated in about 5 years, it's still going to remain perfectly accessible and usable without any maintenance, and is easily preserved by web archives. Local development server, Jekyll has something built in so that you don't need a testing environment set up. You can just do it on your local machine. And that really allows you to collaborate with your team and in rapid development cycles, which really lets you develop faster. Version control of plain text, all the code is plain text files. There's no databases or anything fancy. And so the version control, that's really straightforward and easy to implement. So you can put it up on GitHub to collaborate with lots of different people and facilitate contributions from outside collaborators and other people. And the final one here, which might sound a little bit weird, is educational in nature. We still see that as a benefit. We think that there's a learning curve, but it is a good learning curve that empowers users to better understand the digital world that we live in. So by interacting directly with the data and configuration files, you have more opportunity to improve on your overall development skills and your digital literacies, rather than that buttonology of just learning an admin interface. So this is part of why we're really focused on that kind of get it started documentation of trying to remove some of those barriers to those very first steps. Because once you get started, it can really open up some avenues for creating all sorts of different projects and really taking agency over your systems. So Collection Builder has a number of different versions, which we call types of the Collection Builder template. And it really depends on where you want to store your collection objects, your technical expertise, and the aims of your project. So Collection Builder GH, GitHub Pages, is a simplified template that we designed for easy free hosting on GitHub. And it can be implemented without installing anything at all on your computer, which is really great for workshops, for learning, really small projects. So we use that to teach about Collection Builder at conferences and with students in the classroom. SA is for standalone. This is more of a fully featured template designed for self-hosting. There's a bit more that you're going to need to do to get set up on your own, but everything's totally self-contained in that template. Content DM is a skin that is built on top of the existing Content DM digital collections to provide a much better user interface for browsing and discovery. It uses the APIs and Content DM to just call the images out of that repository and into your web pages. And we use this to build all our own digital collections at U of I. So there's lots of examples that you can look at. And the final one is a work in progress, ES Elastic. And this is something that we're working on with a developer to try to create a really complete solution that has cloud hosting and Elasticsearch workflows for multiple collections. And so we'd hope to be able to have a really complete solution that can replace a repository with a completely static and cloud hosted package. So the features of all these types are really designed to be progressive so that you can learn the basics by following an example, gradually learn more, which is going to give you more and more power to customize the template in a very scaffolded learning approach. And once you understand how all these components work together, it really becomes a set of recipes that you can easily remix to rapidly create and sustain projects. So that's basically how it works. And the kind of types of collection builder. And I just wanted to give some use cases that we've actually done. So here's a variety of use cases, and there's links here to all of the websites in the slides. So you're going to want to take some time to explore those, hopefully, after the webinar. And these are ones that we've tried on our campus. So working with undergraduates, teaching archival research and digital libraries in the classroom. The students do some archival work, they do some digitization, they write some metadata, and they're rewarded with their own digital collection. Working with graduate students, rethinking the dissertation research in new ways, opening up that data to explore to the public. We've been working with faculty, collaborating to create digital humanities research projects that go far beyond their traditional publications, and also working with community groups to build up unique local collections. And I think the agility and the flexibility of Collection Builder approach really allows us to create some unique collections that we wouldn't have done if we were just using our traditional repository. And so here's a few more examples. Curating topical exhibits pulled from our archival materials. So recently a special 1918 flu pandemic collection for no particular reason. Creating a open access archive of unique research outputs at the end of grant funding. We can provide lasting access to these resources, which otherwise would fall into obscurity in some file cabinet. Migrating end-of-life projects for long-term sustainability when our digital infrastructure changes. So our migration and change is really a reality for digital projects. So when some of our dynamic web platforms are being taken offline, we're able to harvest that content and ensure that it remains available on the web. So I hope these ideas really kind of get you excited to give it a try and to create some new collections. I'm going to turn it over to Olivia, who's going to give you a few more hands-on walkthrough of how we use Collection Builder at U of I. Oh, and one more note, there's a last slide with a bunch of links that you can explore.
Okay, so I'm going to provide some context to Evan's introduction by talking about how we use Collection Builder in practice. So I'm here on the University of Idaho Digital Collections site. I'm going to jump out to one of our digital collections real quick and show you just kind of how everything is interwoven. So I'm here on the Psychiana digital collection, which is it documents Psychiana, a mail order religion from the 1930s and 40s in Moscow, based out of Moscow, Idaho. So it's a really fascinating collection. And as Evan said, there's all sorts of ways to enter the collection from the home page here. I'm going to click on objects down here, and it takes me over to the browse page where I can then sort by metadata fields up here, or see other objects that have the similar filter for the similar subjects. And then if I jump into an item itself and take a look at it, again, I can circle back to the browse page by clicking through on the subjects. I can download the JPEG. I can look at it up close and explore it that way. Or I can also jump out and see it on the timeline, so I can see it in chronological order according to how it happened in time. Same with the about. You can always link back to the item page from the about page. So we really try to drive our website exploration in this sort of interconnected fashion. And one more page I wanted to show you is the map page. So that collection doesn't have any latitude and longitude data, but a lot of ours do. So here I am on a map example where I can click on an item and then click through to that item's page and learn about its metadata. I can also search the cards that are on this item and play around with the map too by changing the base maps. So the way that we use Collection Builder, as Evan said, is it's a skin over our Content DM instance. So if I click this button, it takes me out to Content DM, where the collection lives, but without all of that interconnectedness. And we put a lot of our collections, most of our collections, into Collection Builder format about a year ago. So since then, we've developed a system for updating them with the latest features from Collection Builder that we create, as well as whenever we update anything in Content DM, we're able to pull it into the Collection Builder skin. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do that. So we use GitHub. We do all of our development for our Collection Builder skin in this repository here. And this just acts as the template for our Collection Builder skin over Content DM. So we develop in the master branch. You can see I'm on the master here. And this is where we add features, make changes that we want to be added to all of our collections. And the way that we add them to our collections is having each of our collections be a sub-branch in the repository. So all we have to do is update the master and then go through all the branches and merge that master branch into the collection branch. So we have over 50 collection branches now, and it really allows us to keep everything uniform looking while also really pulling out the unique aspects of each collection and keeping them present in that collection. So trying to highlight what's unique about each collection. The other great thing about GitHub is that it's really a collaborative platform, and we've really maximized our use of that feature through our development of Collection Builder. So we've been able to teach our staff in both special collections and our digital collections lab staff to be able to merge the master branch into collection branches so that whenever something needs to be updated, they're perfectly capable of doing that. And we've made use of the GitHub issues feature. So whenever somebody pulls in a master branch to a collection branch and gets it updated, they might have a few problems, or they just want to notify Devin and Evan and me that it's ready to be deployed. They'll just make an issue here, like this one, and they'll let us know if they ran into any trouble, and we'll check it out, fix it if they did. And when it's ready to go, we'll build it, and then we'll just move it over to our server. So it's a really quick and easy process, and we've found that it works really well and has really kind of created a community around our digital collections. So now, so I've showed you our official Psychiana collection, and I'm going to use some items from it to generate kind of a quick demo collection. And I'm going to jump over here to Collection Builder GH, which, as Evan said, is our version for teaching. So we use it in workshops and teaching in the classroom. And part of the reason it's so great for this is that you can build an entire digital collection just through the browser. So you don't have to download any software. You don't have to install anything. It's a great way to figure out if Collection Builder is something you want to work with just by working with a small collection. And you can get it literally from start to finish. So by the end, you can generate a free website from GitHub Pages. And I wanted to point out that we have very detailed instructions for how to do this on our website that was in the chat earlier. And so if you're interested, check it out and watch our detailed tutorial. You can follow along. We go really slowly in that tutorial, so you won't get left behind. Whereas here, I'm going to go through a little bit faster. So I just want to make sure you have that resource if you want to get started. So if I were to what I'll do here is I'll start in the GitHub on the browser and using GitHub, and I'll show you a few things about how I would get started with a collection like this. And then I'm going to jump over to my text editor and show you how it looks on the back end. So if you were to get interested in Collection Builder and want to use it on a larger scale, you'd probably at some point want to switch over to a text editor like Visual Studio Code or Atom, which is going to let you use Jekyll to generate your site on a local server and look at the changes that you make to the code and see them reflected in the site's interface a lot more quickly than you could through the browser. So to get started, what I would do is I would come to this repository and I'd click the green Use This Template button. And when I do that, it allows me to create a new repository. So I'd give it a name and I would click this green Create Repository from Template button. And you do have to have a GitHub account to start this, so make sure you have one set up first. But then all you need to do is just click that button. So I already have this repository copied, so I'm just going to jump over here, and you can see this is the new repository I made, and you can see it's generated from Collection Builder GH. So we're all good there. The second thing that I would do is I would scroll down, and what I would do is upload my digital objects. So you can see this is just a system of folders and files here. And I'm going to go to the objects folder. And I've uploaded a little variety of objects here. I have an MP3, a few JPEGs, and a few PDFs. I also have a YouTube video linked in my metadata, but since it's a YouTube video, I just have to link it. I don't actually need to upload the video. One thing about if you are using Collection Builder GH, your space is a little bit limited, so you can only upload so many things in the GitHub repository. But if you were to switch to using standalone or the skin versions, you can use as many digital objects as you want. The second thing I would do after objects is I would go up to my _data folder. It's usually the very first directory in the root of the repository. You don't want to mix it up with the data folder that doesn't have an underscore in front of it. That's where we put our data that's exported from the collection. This is where underscore folder is where you want to put the data that's going to be used to generate the collection. So if I click in there, I've created my metadata already as a CSV, and I've given it a name. I've named it Psychiana, and I've uploaded it here, so it's down here. And just a note about metadata, if you are interested in Collection Builder and want to try it yourself, be sure to check out our documentation, because there are a few fields of our metadata that you do need to make sure that they're in there in order for Collection Builder to work. It's not too hard to get it all set up, but you probably will need to do a little bit of finagling to get it ready. And then the last thing I'll show you in the browser is how you can make this repository into a website. So GitHub has a feature called Github Pages, which if your repository has the correct components, will allow you to generate that repository into a live website for free. So you can see my website over here. I've already gotten it set up and going. And the way that I did that is I went to Settings, and I scrolled down to GitHub Pages, and I looked, the first thing you have to do is just select what branch you want the website to be generated from. I only had one branch in this case, so I just chose master, and I saved it. And then you can see my site is now published at this URL that they gave me. And if I come out here, I can see that it's sort of working, but if I were to click on any of these pages, they wouldn't work because I haven't configured my site yet. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. Come back here first. All right, so I'm going to configure my site in my text editor now. And so I have the repository pulled down to my computer here. You can see these folders over here are displayed. They mirror exactly what's in my GitHub repository. So what I've done is I've been able to clone that repository to my computer using this button. And now I'm able to edit it in my own text editor rather than through the GitHub interface. And then also serve it via Jekyll, which I'll show you in a second, and see the edits that I make in real time, so I can make adjustments based on what I see. When I'm done, I would push it back up to GitHub, and it usually takes a few minutes to, a few seconds to a few minutes to get your website to be updated after you push the new changes to it, which is why I'm not showing you everything through the browser. But if you were to try this yourself, just be aware that it will probably take, a few seconds at least for that site to update. So my next step when I'm building a collection is after I have the objects and the metadata uploaded, the next thing I want to do in order to get my site up and running is to configure it. And I'm going to start with the config YAML file for that. So that's right in the root of my repository. It's right here. And this is the central place where I can edit my settings that generate the collection. So this is always the best place to start. And it's in a YAML format, which is a human readable data serialization language. And there's just really 3 things that you need to know about that right now. And that's that you're looking, kind of 3 components that you're looking at here. The first one is comments. So those are delineated by the pound sign. They're in green on my computer here. The second component is variables, and they're in blue here. So these are the variables that you'll be adding values to. So after each variable is a colon and then the value of that variable. So this orange part here is the data that you'll be changing as you go through this file. And that's exactly what I'll do. I'll just go through each section of the file and then save it when I'm done. So I'm going to start with the URL variables. The first thing I'll change is I just need to substitute the CollectionBuilder username for my own GitHub username. So this is going to make my site be able to work correctly. The second thing I'll do is add my repository's name and get rid of the CollectionBuilder GH name there. And the third thing I'll do is I'll pull in both of these components to update the source code here. And we always link to the source code from the digital collection, so it just is helpful to have the link ready. And when people can go to your code, then it promotes that sort of open source development mentality. So my site settings are next. So these are just basic things like the title of the site. Update that, and then a tagline, which is just a really short little phrase that goes right underneath your title over the featured image on your site. So I'll just do tagline here. There's also a place for a description, which we usually recommend 1 to 3 sentences. This is going to be visible on the home page. And it's going to allow people to invite people to click in, especially into the About page, to learn more about the collection. Last thing I'll update here is my name. So you can use your real name if you want to. I'm going to use my GitHub name. This is going to be displayed in the HTML meta tags. And then the last, but probably the most important setting here is the collection setting. And this is where I'm going to link my metadata to the collection. So it's really important you get the name of your metadata CSV correctly here. I'm going to jump over and just copy it to make sure I don't have any typos. And then I'm going to paste it without the file extension into the value for that variable. And that's all I need to do for this file for now. I just saved it. And now I'm going to type Jekyll S or Jekyll serve into my terminal. And Jekyll is going to build out my site. It might take a second here. So it gives me a little server address that I can just click on. And here I am at my demo site. So not everything's configured yet or customized yet, but I can see my objects are working, and that's great. If I go to browse, I can scroll through. I don't have a lot of objects, but I have quite a bit of variety, so that's really great. So that's usually what I check first. I'll go through and kind of see if everything else is working. My subjects are, I have a locations word cloud, but it's pretty small. My map is working, but it's kind of zoomed in. There's some other objects out there, timeline is working, and so is data. So the next step is to it's the fun stuff. You get to configure and customize what your site looks like. And the first thing I might want to do is figure out what my featured image will be. So I'm going to go back to my code here, and I'm going to go to the _data folder. I'm going to look for a theme.yaml. And if I go to the top of this page, so this is also written in YAML, and it's also delineated by sections. This time they reflect the pages of the website. The very first variable I can update here is the featured image. and I'm going to jump over to the site real quick and pick a featured image. So we usually recommend one that's horizontal, JPEG or PNG format. And if one looks good to you, you can click on it. You'll come up to the URL and you'll copy this very last part of the URL, which happens to be the object's object ID. And if you do this yourself, you'll learn about what the object's IDs are when you're creating the metadata. They're just a unique identifier for the item that's used to help CollectionBuilder build the site. So I'm going to jump out now to my code and paste this in to the featured image spot. And I think I won't edit anything else on the home page for now, except maybe the carousel height. I'll increase that. And I just saved this file and it regenerated down here. So I'm back to my browser and I'm going to refresh. And now my featured image appears and my carousel is a little bit taller, so maybe people can see those images better. And automatically this featured image link is updated, so people can see if they want to learn more about that image, can just link directly to it. Next thing I might change is the map page. So like I said, I want to zoom out here. I'm going to go and just scroll down my YAML file until I get to the map page section. And here I am, and there's something that allows me to adjust my zoom level. So I'm going to decrease that from 7 to 4. Save the file and jump over and refresh. And now I'm zoomed out enough that people can see that the collection items come from more than just northern Idaho. They come from Illinois too. Last thing I might want to do is, like I mentioned, my locations page is pretty small. Maybe that's not really useful to people. The subjects pages, because each of these subject is showing up based on how frequently it appears in the metadata. So if I were to click on them, it would take me to the browse page where I could view them, but locations, maybe not so interesting to look at. So at this point, I would have finished updating my theme file and I would have felt good about that, and I would switch up to my config CSV files. So these are just little files in the underscore data folder that are going to allow me to edit just little things about the site, such as links and navs and metadata. And so this is usually the third step of my process of creating my collection. And I'm going to go to config nav for now. So these are all CSVs, just comma separated values files. So that means all I need to do is just find the row that says locations, just select it all and delete it. And then once that updates, I can come back over. And if you just watch my nav bar there, I'm going to refresh and locations disappears. So it's not needed anymore. If I wanted to add it back in, all I do is just go back to the config nav. I would add that row back in. That's how you can add any new page too. If you created a new page and wanted to add it to the nav, you just do it through the CSV. The other CSVs work very similarly. So at this point, I have a fully working collection. Everything looks good. I probably would normally do a little bit more customization, but it's really exciting and feels good to have a collection built pretty quickly. So what I would do is normally commit my changes and push them up to GitHub, where they would then be, GitHub would then process them and update the website that it's given me. So that takes a little while, so I'm not going to do it right now. But I do encourage you to check this out yourself and feel free to reach out to us with any questions or concerns. We're always happy to help. I'm going to turn it over to Devin now, and he's going to talk a little bit about how we use our development process for CollectionBuilder for other digital projects and library projects here at the University of Idaho.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It's really great to see people attend this and hopefully get a sense of what CollectionBuilder is. So let me share. So I'm going to talk about the kind of larger kind of driving feature methodology that's kind of informing this work, and speculate on what it might mean for an Idaho-wide kind of collaboration here. We're already kind of had some conversations with other institutions about using this for digital collections, and so I'm going to detail that. But we call this methodology that we use libstatic, and so I have kind of a pitch. It's all speculative, so a lot of this hasn't come to fruition yet, but it's sort of where we're going. So, are you tired of learning systems rather than skills, frustrated with overloaded infrastructure, siloed by the tools you know and the tools you don't? Consider libstatic. Also, this whole project has turned me into this really terrible marketer and ad salesman, and I'm not very good at that. I'm glad I'm a librarian. So libstatic is what we're calling it, a methodology, and it kind of has, that's how we've called it a lot. And so we're building a website to kind of feature it, but we're also thinking of it as a community and as a cookbook. And so I'm going to go through that real quickly, but it's a development methodology that leverages these static web technologies and metadata skills to create engaging library publications and applications on the web. The methodology is that whatever we build is open data, open source. It's simple-ish. There's some kind of initial kind of conceptual hills to get over, but after that, it's a lot easier to build these websites than it is to go through your IT department and things like that. It's librarian, and I hope the librarians enjoy the asterisk there. Optimized. There's full control over your content and your data, and it leverages librarian skills. So especially like we were demonstrating, we all can do metadata, we all can do spreadsheets. We really are good at managing information about objects and books and everything else. So that's where we really wanted to kind of feature, have everything that if you do that well, Collection Builder will build something well, or your website will do a good thing. And it's user focused, it's engaging. It's not leaving this amazing content that so many of us have in our special collections and our digital collections in these really unusable and non-engaging formats. And that's the same for our other information on the rest of our websites. As a community, there are some other projects like Collection Builder that are built. One's called Wax, one's called Ed, and those are coming out of New York and Columbia mostly. And they're used in different contexts. We've also got some other projects that we've worked on. One that we're developing is Oral History as Data, which we've used for our Voices of Gay Rodeo site collection and some other collections. And it helps, it will let you kind of follow similar steps to what we've just demonstrated, but take a CSV of like a transcript from an oral history or qualitative interview and visualize it in a way that will give you these kind of colorful visualizations of the subject codes. You have to code it as well. And then it also give you kind of, you can search it and seek it through there. And so that's, we kind of want to get a big site up of all these different projects and collections. And then as part of that, we also, we wanted people to learn this code and start to see it. It's a great way to learn web development because you have projects to start with. And especially us, a lot of us in the library field have collections and data to work with and thinking about it in different ways. So part of libstatic will be kind of getting these recipes together so that this is the visualization that was up there and this is the searchable, fillable, filterable transcript. But that's not quite built yet. So this is also speculative. So what is libstatic Idaho? It's a very nascent idea, and hopefully, it'll turn into a grant application here. But we're seeking to build kind of skills and collaboration for library workers in Idaho. And we're going to start with those of us with digital collections looking to aggregate our data and content into a single portal. So a single discovery kind of item that it can at least gather all the low fruit is just getting descriptions of all the, essentially making a collection of collections where all the digital collections are searchable and browsable and sort of, reachable via one Collection Builder instance, but eventually getting everything up there in some sort of open data format that everyone can look through. And then also use those, because the collections at, University of Idaho and the collections at Idaho State, there are overlapping, interesting historical kind of, sort of connections between those. And so it would be great, and this is what I'm going to talk about as the speculative archive, if some of those could be combined into their own exhibits or their own collections without a whole lot of extra work. And this comes out of our work this year, but also there's been a number of kind of articles written about kind of the living archive, or as Bethany Novisky calls it, a speculative collection. And she gave this as a plenary talk in 2016, and this comes from her blog. But she says digital humanities collections are more likely to be taken by their users as memorializing, conservative, limited, and suggested of a linear view of history than as problem-solving, branching, generative, non-teleological. This is a design problem. We're building our digital libraries to be received by audiences as lenses for retrospect, rather than as stages to be left upon by performers and by co-creators. In other words, they're not improv platforms. They should be spaces for projection, planning, performance, speculation. Once they're online, I don't want special collections anymore. I want speculative ones. And I think, you know, a lot of us, and I think, you know, we embody this, me and Olivia and Evan, just, and Annie before them, get frustrated by getting locked into these systems, and we can really think of the things we want to have happen and see, but you know, we've not been able to do that within the system. And so this is building outside of systems, building in a more creative way. And so that, you know, how do we build that structure? What sort of infrastructure and data do we need to enable user-generated multi-collection, multi-institution collections and exhibits? And so, yeah, so I think there's a lot of possibility with libstatic. And it starts with this digital collection idea, maybe this speculative archive, but it can be, you know, this approach can be applied to across the library landscape. And so, Evan gave you some of the projects that we've done this for digital humanities, digital scholarship projects. We've also built features on our website. This is an instruction by topic where instructors can go and find librarians that might know something about the project they're wanting to present on. They search in this. Using this little thing, right, you know, using this here. And so you're looking for something digital. Maybe you want digital humanities. You click again and you get me or Olivia. Evan should probably be up there too. And then you can request instruction from that build. So it's a tool we've built using recipes that we've developed in the Collection Builder and other tools. And so it's driven by, it was envisioned by our liaisons, and they put together the spreadsheet that drives it. And then we just sort of plugged it in and used it to kind of build some features on top of it. But so this is something that, you know, you could take and put in new information and have a whole new thing right away if you had this kind of availability for your website. We used it then to build, we were in between course reserve systems this summer, and now we're jumping to Leganto, but in the interim, we needed a course reserve kind of interface. And so we built this very quickly using the same kind of techniques and approaches that we had developed for the topics of expertise. Our whole site is static web at this point, so there's a lot to be. Oh, sorry. So we've done a lot, and we're also right now we're building the Idaho Harvester. This is a blog in process coming from our Tumblr. I think Annie knows this picture, but Annie put together a big Tumblr way back when she was at Idaho. And then the special collections and archives people have been working on Tumblrs for the last 3 years as well. And so we have all this content and we're pulling it into one place where people can discover all that content and we don't lose it to the Tumblrs and Facebooks and everything of the world. So keeping those static files static and for our use. This is untethered, creative, web-driven librarianship. I think I should have an and there. It's, you know, this is kind of our vision of what librarianship could be. And maybe if we could start to seed these kind of ideas and this development style in Idaho, we could build more projects together. We could collaborate better. And I think libraries and archives and institutions like historical societies could have better sites, could feature their collections better and things like that. So this is, you too can be a web developer. This is just a little snapshot of our team's conversation that was happening on Friday. The special collections and archive staff and faculty are working with us these next 2 weeks to really re-envision their website and rebuild this blog. And so they're all writing, you know, content for the web, and they're building and envisioning features for the new site. And so empowering people to do that is one of the main kind of, you know, emphases and goals for this project as well. Okay, so caveats. It's harder. You know, you just saw a command line, which is scary, right? So it does take some, you know, some training to get past those initial hurdles. So learning a little bit of command line, learning, although it's just a few commands, learning Git and GitHub, which is a conceptual thing to get through. But, you know, once you get there, it's easier. Stuff still breaks. You still need technical expertise. There's still going to need to be someone, you know, in the community that has, you know, a real facility with this, like with any kind of technical thing. And you don't buy it. So, and that maybe seems like a pro, but we've also seen like where, you know, if administration buys something, then there's buy-in at your institution to keep working on it. And so having this thing that's kind of free, you know, and is only investing time, it's a harder kind of concept to get through. And that's something we've seen this year. And then the last one, there's a very real possibility this will flame out and end up being an incredible failure. I think we've been this year kind of like, you know, trying to build this community and trying to get people to grab on, and you know, it's hard. There's no time. We're in a pandemic. You know, it's difficult, but we do see a lot of promise for this. And so we're going to be searching for grants and opportunities to kind of incentivize work and collaboration on this project going forward. So if you're still interested, Collection Builder is a great place to start. We're happy to talk with you and work with you. That's, you know, we're on an IMLS grant now for the next year. And we, you know, that's part of our job, is to work and develop people. And we're hoping to use these next kind of grants to increase opportunities and incentivize them too, and so that you can take time away from your job to learn some of these skills and start to build some of these projects. So thank you very much. And I guess if there are any questions, or is Annie going to take it now?
Yay. Yeah, so thank you three so much for coming today. While we give folks a few seconds to think about a question and type it in, because that takes a little bit longer in the virtual space. I just wanted to say I appreciate you all so much. It's been so great. We've mentioned it a few times, but I had previously worked at the University of Idaho with Devin and Evan. And so it's been a pleasure to see the work continuing and to get to meet Olivia. And it was such a treat to get to see all of the behind the scenes work. Because like with a big project like this, sometimes in a webinar, it's all sunshine and rainbows, but I think having that realistic, like, you know, it is work. It's legitimate work, and there's long-term conversations that need to keep happening. But yeah, I'm so appreciative of you guys for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you for setting it up.
Yeah. So I don't see any questions yet. Oh, there's a question. So just wondering, considering the Content DM skin, is it necessary to have a paid Content DM subscription over which to place it?
Well, I mean, you need, it's sort of, if you had the metadata from another collection that you had it in a spreadsheet and you had the links, you could build it on top of somebody else's collection. So you don't have to, that's not part of it. But yeah, if you held your items, your digital objects in Content DM, yeah, you have to pay for that system. And so we build it because we're on Content DM, and a lot of other institutions and a lot of institutions in Idaho are on Content DM. We've also developed a skin for Mukutu, which is a CMS built by our neighbors at Washington State. And that one's sort of still in development, but we built one called Sobek, which they use in Florida. But the idea of the skin is that, you know, you just kind of, essentially you pop out some links and we put in some new links, and the same thing gets built, but the metadata mostly stays the same because the metadata is about the same.
Yeah, I would say that the skins are really about, you know, for institutions that already have some platform, but so many people have Content DM or, but just aren't happy with the interface. And so we're trying to provide another layer on top of that. But like Devin says, in theory, you could just use anybody else's Content DM and multiple collections. So you could pull together exhibits from other people's Content DM. But yeah, it would be more generally applicable if you're a user of Content DM and you're invested in that workflow and you don't necessarily want to migrate off of it, but you do still want to provide better usability for your users.
And
so there's another, oh yeah, sorry. Stephanie just asked about the difference between hosting the digital collections on the University of Idaho server and on the GitHub cloud, and specifically the storage capacities.
So for Collection Builder GH, which you use on GitHub Pages, that's really not for full-on like digital collections. It would be for smaller exhibits for learning. GitHub repositories, each repository is basically a folder of files. That's literally what it is a folder of files. But each repository is limited to about 1 gig. And so you can't, you know, put up a very large collection in there, especially if you have large objects like MP3s. And so it's really designed just for kind of that learning step. And then for standalone collections, where you would host it on a regular static server, you know, it's just however much space you have, and you can buy you know, cloud hosting, really cheap. A lot of institutions provide static servers for free for your, you know, for use in the institution. And so that's what we do. Our ITS provides us with a server that's the most basic possible server, and we just can put a lot of, for our static or our standalone collections, we just put images in a folder on that server and the static website on there as well. And so, and then with Content DM, obviously, then the Content DM skin, the items are actually stored in Content DM, so you don't have, you're only serving up on your server just the HTML, not the images. So the images and the objects stay on the Content DM server. So all that storage is done over there.
And you could build sites that are hosted on GitHub Pages that use objects other places. So you can build, you know, so you could take the GH, and if you listed in the spreadsheet underneath the file name field, links out to the, you know, the MP3s and other places that, like, for instance, DigitalOcean Spaces is the one we're looking at for our larger one, and that's $5 a month for 250 gigs. So we can just put a bunch of stuff there and then use those links in the file name, and then you can build as much as you want. It's just because that code is really small. So the thing that blows up the repository is larger files. I hope that, does that help?
Another example would be YouTube, where we put all of our a lot of videos on YouTube, because hosting up or streaming the video is really complicated, and let YouTube do it. And so you could have a giant collection of videos without having any objects actually in there. And for example, here's a example demo site for CollectionBuilder Content DM version that's hosted on GitHub Pages. None of these objects are on GitHub Pages. They're in our collection or our Content DM repository.
So when we do our Content DM skin, the only thing we export from Content DM is the metadata, and we export it as a TSV file, and then that's what we upload and change a little bit to get into CollectionBuilder, but then the items are hosted through Content DM.
Great. If there's any other questions, feel free to type them in. I had a quick question. So if folks are, say, at a small public library or like a historical society, and they wanted to get started working on this, could they get in touch with you directly, or should they go to the website?
Absolutely, they can get in contact with us. The website's a great place to start to learn about it, but we want to help all this. You know, it's geared towards smaller and medium-sized institutions, not towards, you know, the Stanfords of the world.
Mm-hmm. Great. Cool. So I'm not seeing any more questions. Feel free to type them in if you have them. But otherwise, it's been a great pleasure to have you guys in our webinar space. And it's been so great to see these collections.
Thank you, Annie.
Neat.
Yeah, thanks, Annie.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for being here.